Let's move on to this leading story. Healthcare workers and journalists in Cape Town are calling for a protest against the killing of their counterparts in Gaza. The protest is planned for this evening in Sea Point. Now, it will include an interfaith prayer service led by Christians, Muslims and Jews. Former ambassador to the US Ebrahim Rasool is expected to deliver an address. Newzroom Afrika's Yazeed Kamaldien is there and keeps us up to speed. Yazeed, what is the latest at the moment as we await this event to unfold?
Well, the event has just concluded. It started with an interfaith vigil where Jews, Muslims and Christians prayed for the lives lost in Gaza. The main focus was on healthcare workers and journalists. Various guest speakers, including my next interviewee, Ebrahim Rasool, was also here. Now, Ebrahim Rasool was the former South African ambassador to the United States. Mr. Rasool, welcome to Newzroom Afrika.
Thank you very much.
This evening you talked about the importance of the healthcare workers. Reflect a bit about what you had told the crowd.
Look, I think that the healthcare workers have a double job. They've got to try and mobilize resources to save lives in a mass killing that is taking place in Palestine and Gaza in particular. But they also have to be the conscience of a massive health industry across the world that is turning a blind eye. We're not saying have a touchstone of faith in your ethics and your integrity, but at least your Hippocratic oath must say to you that you cannot be dispensing health in a hospital somewhere in the world and be blind to what is happening in Gaza. You've got to raise your voices of moral condemnation just based on the ethics of health.
Now, you are the former South African ambassador to the United States. The United States at the United Nations has vetoed various calls for ceasefire. What do you make of the US policy?
Look, I think the US policy has been very consistent. It will always take Israel's side. It will invoke the responsibility to protect and go and bomb Gaddafi in order to protect Libyans against Gaddafi, but it will not do the same thing when Palestinians' lives are at stake. And so the United States has what I call a triple bypass for the Muslim world. It is a bypass of democracy, of human rights and of freedom. For them, their interests in the Middle East are more important than their values that they cherish at home. And therefore, that is the foundation of the US policy in the Middle East. You must also understand that no one a year ahead of an election is going to be fair about what is happening, even despite the evidence of their eyes. And so Biden is not going to chance it, the Congress is not going to chance, the Senate is not going to chance any of those kind of things. So that really is it. The interest in oil is receding because we're preparing for a post-oil war, but certainly the idea that Israel must be secured at all costs is the way in which Western civilization is paying its debt of guilt to Jews, they say, but particularly to Zionists.
My last question around the word evidence that you just mentioned. You also talked to the crowd here about collecting evidence. Why do you think that is so important?
You know, we are busy counting lives that are lost, and we must do so. And we are mourning every life that is lost. But whatever the outcome of it, there's only one outcome that Zionism and Netanyahu, and maybe with the backing of the United States and all of them want. They want Gaza depopulated. They want the West Bank confined to certain homelands. And therefore, the only way to stop this is what South Africa has done, and that is to take this matter to the International Criminal Court to make the charge of war crimes, but we can't go empty-handed. And that's why my call here was, let us mobilize around the President's presentation of those charges to the ICC. Let us get the evidence. Let us get health workers across the world, particularly in Gaza, not only to look after the immediate lives of people, but let us find the evidence of white phosphorus that was used. Let us find whether these were the high-velocity bullets that were being used, because that's outlawed in war. Let us see whether this was shrapnel that was just invisible to people, that just maimed and killed them, because that's outlawed in war. Let us hear how people were tortured when they were abducted and detained by Israel, because those are the things that are outlaws. And so we can't just be the mourners at the gravesite. We can't just be the dispensers of health. We've got to be the gatherers of evidence if we are going to stop the Israel bully in its tracks.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rasool. Well, there was Ebrahim Rasool, the former South African ambassador to the United States. The atmosphere right now is jovial as Muslims, Jews and Christians have gathered here in Sea Point for an interfaith vigil to not only mourn the lives but also to stand with solidarity with the people in Gaza. And back to you in the studio.
Thank you very much, Yazeed. Kamaldien, as he was speaking there with Ebrahim Rasool about the events that took place in Cape Town earlier on, where people had gathered in solidarity with those that are suffering in Gaza.